CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Long overdue, folks. We're back with Rob Kalwarowsky. And if you don't know and you're dealing with chaos in all manner of situations, leadership, mid-level, shop floor, plant floor, you don't even have to be in the industry. You need to check out this book. Rob wrote this book, and it's based on a lot of things around real life experience, an immense amount of research into these topics, and he brings the goods, not only for us that are in industry, if you touch maintenance, if you're involved in reliability, he's that guy too, but he really gets this stuff. So I encourage you to check this out and keep an eye on his schedule, because he will occasionally make these different kind of tours, and you can hook up with him and talk. But MIT graduate, a collegiate athlete, extremely high level, knows how to deal with all this shit in a real way. Rob Kalwarowsky, welcome back to CMMS Radio, brother.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Always fun to chop it up with you.
Yeah, and we got friends in common, and I'm so thankful for them making the intro way back. I mean, one for sure is Brian Bieski. He's our guy. He'll tell you he's just a mechanic, but man, he's the real deal too. The thing I wanted to talk to you about today, I saw a post, I think it was like a week, maybe 2 weeks back, and there were two things in there that really caught my attention that I'm kind of interested in picking your brain on. One is, I want to know, what is the status quo bias? Yep. And I think I know, but I'd rather hear that from you. And then we're going to jump into a little bit later on this. One of my favorite topics is stuckness, because we all spend time there. Sometimes in our life, we spend time there. So first, what's this status quo bias?
Yeah. So simply put, the status quo bias is exactly what you mentioned around stuckness. It's our preference to stay in status quo. And the reason why this happened is our brains have evolved to keep us safe and alive. And safe and alive, there's a misconception that safe and alive means that you're happy and you're thriving and you're successful, and it's none of that. Safe basically means that you've done the thing before and you haven't died. And this is like when you go to a conference and the second day, people sit in the same chair that they did the day before. Or you sit at the same table for lunch, or you drive the same route to work, or you drink your coffee in a certain way. All of those things are basically because your brain's going, yesterday I did it and I'm still alive, therefore I'm going to be alive tomorrow.
That's interesting.
And the status quo, right? It's and this is something that I started to see so much when I was in consulting in the reliability, was I was going to all these plants and I always talked to these old operators who they knew everything, and yet they weren't happy in their job. And I'd always go well, are you looking for another job? And they would never say yes. And at the time I was I don't get it. If you don't like it, leave. But now, when I've started digging into psychology and how people work, it's no, it's because they were in the status quo bias. Their brain was it's safe. Even if I come to work and I'm not happy, I know what I can expect. I know I'm going to be alive, and that's enough. And it takes a lot of effort to change, and also to kind of convince your brain that the benefits of change are going to be worth the risk.
And we've talked about this before. This is filled with the idea of vulnerability being the one thing that allows us to grow, and it also keeps us stuck, because we are very concerned about that future. And in doing so, it's not a bad idea to have a plan and a strategy, right? But we really do. I've experienced what you're just describing, where, if I got to change this, what's going to happen? I need to know. like a guy like Alan Watts, and I encourage everybody to find and consume Alan Watts. He passed away many years ago, but it's just brilliant, his take on life. But when you're so focused on the future, which is not a terrible thing, you steal opportunities from yourself without knowing it, and they're fear-based because shit, man, you're the guy at the job is like, yeah, but I know this. So I don't know, maybe like the devil I know, because if I go elsewhere, I'm going to take a risk and, oh, I want it to be better, but what if it's not? Well, you can't think like that, but we do. If it's not better, you make another change. It's really peculiar, right? Because we're so damn capable, and we're also the ones getting in our own way. So it's interesting how both the status quo bias and the stuckness are not just interrelated, they're inextricably linked.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is the part that our brains don't get, is that the status quo, and just because we did something yesterday doesn't mean that it's safe.
How so?
Like, the best example is Nassim Taleb in one of his books. He talks about how the turkey gets more confident that it's going to be alive all the way up to the morning of Thanksgiving. Because judging on past performance, the more confident I get, the more data I have that I was surviving yesterday, the more data I would assume I would be, the more confident I would be going forward. But that's actually a logical fallacy. And we see this everywhere today, right? Like Silicon Valley this year has laid off over hundreds of thousands of people. And it's like they thought they had a great tech job until they got an email at 6 a.m. saying you will no longer work here.
Man, it's such a trap that we live in, and we lose sight of the boundaries of that trap. We think we're not in a trap, and it's really interesting because, like, I don't want to shit on the things that we pursue and chase. You understand this deeply when it comes to not just academia, not just work in maintenance and reliability, but you also understand it specifically in your athletic career when it comes to the discipline, some of the rote kind of repeatable things. And still in that environment, you find ways to constantly challenge yourself, but it becomes kind of familiar, safe. And that's another thing I think of with this status quo. We don't really understand what we're costing ourselves. And I wonder how people can achieve, I don't know if we want to call it a breakthrough or something, but what would you encourage someone to do if they start to recognize, or they hear something like this, or they read your book, or they read your post, and they're like, shit, man, I am stuck on this. I'm stuck in life. I'm stuck in this situation. I'm not thriving. And this status quo concept, this bias, I'm there. What's the first thing they can do if they've developed some self-awareness?
The easiest exercise that I get folks to do is called leveraging. And if you go to my website, robkalwarowsky.com/reason, I actually have a free template. You can do this, or you can email me or email Greg and we'll get it to you. But basically, it's think about what you want to achieve and then make a list of what are you going to feel when you achieve that. Like, and it's like, hey, I want another job. Okay, how am I going to feel when I'm working at my dream job? I'm going to feel satisfied. I'm going to feel like I'm making a difference. I'm making an impact. I'm going to feel successful. I'm going to feel whatever that is. And then stack that against the list of what is the pain and suffering that you are experiencing during status quo. I feel dissatisfied. I feel bored. I feel like I'm not making an impact. I feel depressed. I feel anxiety, whatever that is. The more you put on either side, the more your brain can see that actually change is the safer option. that gets you moving. And then like the final parts of that worksheet is like, what's the fastest, smallest thing that you can do right now to move towards that goal? And so then it's like, okay, I've listed these things out. I want to move to action. What can I do right now that takes a step forward? And then you build on that momentum.
Do you feel like that? I'm imagining where this comes from through both your experiences, your research, and talking to countless experts that, you know, help people with this, maybe went through it themselves and they were able to kind of recognize what was working. And then how do I package that in a way that gives people a way forward? Because I'd love to see other people not be in this situation, no matter who they are. It's like the worst, right? Being stuck. I mean, it sucks. Especially if you don't recognize it, you're kind of cheating yourself there too. Do you think much of your perspective is from that foundation of your sports background, where you really understand, and also in maintenance and reliability, the incremental improvement, the little 1% every week or every day or every month? Is that where that really comes from, or is it a much bigger kind of thing than that?
The action piece comes from sports, because when you're training every day, it's like show up. And if you show up, you get better. The initial part about how to stack the pain and pleasure and really focus on the emotion piece, that comes from research and neuroscience, where like our brain makes decisions subconsciously through emotion before we even get to the point where we can logically think it through.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part, is like, as engineers and as maintenance folks and technical people, we're taught like, oh, well, just like logic it out and like put a pros and cons list together. And it's like, your brain has already emotionally decided before you can even get to the point where you put logic into it.
That's and that's collective, and that's actually timeless. That comes from our mammalian brain.
Yeah.
I wonder if some of what we see when it comes to, like, you're in a place that I think it's got some features that you just won't see in other places, where you can quiet a lot of the noise, right? You can focus a little bit better on things that actually matter. Well-being, tranquility, all that kind of stuff. And we get in a lot of, I guess, westernized societies, and it's becoming more of a global phenomenon, we should admit that, where we're bombarded constantly with terrible messaging that with enough repetition, we truly believe. We get fully bought in with things like keeping up with the Joneses, getting triggered over dumb shit that frankly nobody gives a fuck about anyway, but they make it so that you're worried about a bunch of nonsense. And again, getting back to, you know, a reliability engineer or like a badass 30, 40-year veteran in the maintenance space, got a job that sucks. I mean, he's been getting pounded on too. And he's split between eras and generations, where all that noise makes sense to the kids and the younger guys and gals out there, and it's exhausting. I just think it's almost, it sounds to me like it's a cycle. And I mean, I can speak from experience too, but I think, is any of this in the book? Like some of the stuff in this book, or is it more so part of like what you do aside from the book?
It's all interfaced, right? Like, nobody ever makes a change when everything is perfect.
It's a good point.
So if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't like my job, I don't like where I'm living, you know, I don't like, even it could be something like you're trying to build a reliability culture, right? Like, we've heard this for 20 years, and it was long before I got into maintenance, right? Like, you want to change culture, you don't do it by like putting together a nice CMMS that has AI and like giving it to people.
That's
like
right.
you have to get them bought in emotionally to this change. What makes it better for them? What sucks for them about their shitty CMMS now, or that they're using Excel sheets, or that they're writing it on paper? That's how you get somebody to change and get out of stuckness. Like, it's not just something that like you can do for yourself. You can totally do it for yourself. You can do it. I use it with founders and entrepreneurs who want to scale their business. I use it with executives who want to change their job. Like, you can do it with all that. You can also use it if you want to implement a better CMMS, or you want to get people to move to predictive maintenance. Like, the change, people are the same. You just apply it in different areas.
Yeah, this is one of those concepts that I think the people that we share in common in the, whatever you want to call it, right, network or whatever. I don't like that so much as like, these are real friends, but they're industry professionals that actually get it. They're focused on the right things, and they understand some of these concepts quite deeply. If I shout out the names, there's way too many of them, so people can go to CMMSradio.com and click on the syndicate. Those are them. That group's going to grow. But what you're talking about when it comes to this culture, the culture, and let's say we want to eradicate a culture of stuckness and this status quo bias within teams, the technology essentially has nothing to do with that. And you're talking about the buy-in, and all these terms we're using, they're buzzy and they're cliche, and the message never changes, because this is the problem in maintenance and reliability, and what we're really trying to do. And I think, based on all the conversations I've had, whether it be with you or George Williams, Brian Bieski, Howard Penrose, now I'm starting to name them. So go look them up, people. These people get it when they say this is really about the people. Maybe you want the process in place first, but the people have to know, why am I doing this? Why does this matter? And it's not just what's in it for me. Once they understand why a certain type of behavior contributes to their entire well-being as a group, and I would include operations and maintenance plus leadership, you can really get moving, and then you can slap that technology in there. But they get stuck. Just if we forget about technology and CMMS and all that, the hero mentality is difficult to break. They see it and they know it, but it happens so often that goes to the background, and we're training ourselves constantly to firefight rather than improve. And then when it's time to improve, everybody's like, "Oh man, we got to do all this shit." And it's like, wait a minute, it's not shit. If you include people and you give them a voice to say, yeah, well, I don't like this and this. Why are we doing that? I don't get it. The boss man or a true leader would say, I want to hear more about that, man, because I think I've had times where I feel that way too. And the more we understand it, maybe we can name it. I don't know if that's a good way to, describe it, but now we can do something about it, right? This, in other words, what I'm asking you is there a reason you think people make this so complicated? And I'm thinking that it's actually related to this concept of that status quo bias and that fear and the fear of vulnerability and, I don't want to change.
People make it complicated because they want to sell stuff. And it's hard for me to sell you a process or a technique or a tool if I go, yeah, people really knew this 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
The other side of this, right, is this is a bias I see a lot, and is everyone thinks that they're unique and different. And yes, you have different, like there are different things about you and you're different, but ultimately people are very similar in how they drive, like their psychology. And like, yes, there's nuances, of course, but people want, like their brain has been wired to like look for safety and to avoid risk. And so it's like the frames around being a hero or doing it all myself, or I have to look good, or even stuff like imposter syndrome, like these are not unique to anyone out there. Like 70% of people experience imposter syndrome, right? So it's like it's a vast majority of people. So when we think about ourselves as like unique and different, it's very difficult to get out of that frame of mind. But when we start relating as like, no, Greg's like me, then we can all work together to move forward.
Yeah, I like that, along with when you mentioned the nuance. Once we start, we can then, when we're moving together, we can start to appreciate the nuance and even leverage it. If I don't know if that's a fair use of leveraging it, but like if we have a team, we know this one, we're all kind of doing the right things. We're synced up pretty well. When that goes out of sync or a problem comes up, an unexpected machine failure, we kind of get together on it rather than blame game. And then the nuance really comes into play nicely there, I suspect, as it relates to this person might be really good at these 3 things. And we all know that, but we can do the other 7 things, any of us. That kind of stuff is what really keeps you moving. But I think out here in the world, when it comes to technology or trying to make these changes and people bringing in consultants or whatever it might be, and this doesn't have to just be about maintenance and reliability, asset management, and CMMS. It's just about the big picture, where if you're doing it backwards and you're trying to use that to improve your situation, it will not work, because you've avoided what I think is the most critical step, and that's the foundational piece of dialing in the culture and the behaviors. Once you crack through that and you see some success with that, now you can start to leverage better systems, more appropriate workflows, and so forth. Is that kind of a fair statement? I mean, you've experienced this in a lot of different settings.
Yeah, understanding future state helps you get there, right? And this is a standard engineering methodology. Is like, what do I want to look for? What is my goal at the end? Where am I today? And then how do I get there? And like, I had a consult call this morning with an entrepreneur, and I was like, hey, like, what are your goals? And he was like, well, I was thinking about starting a hedge fund, and then I kind of parked that. And then I was thinking about building this software. And I actually have 3 different softwares that I'm building. And I want to scale this. And eventually I want it to be $1 billion business. And then you get it, right? And I was like, what exactly you want to build? Right. And it's like, that's often where I think people get stuck the most, is what are you actually trying to achieve? What does that look for you? And that's the part where the chaos keeps people stuck, is because it's like you're getting bombarded by emails and text messages and social media and all the things, and you're not clear on what you're shooting for. So you become reactive in your own life. Did I lose you?
No, you didn't. I'm here.
My computer just
keep going. keep going.
Yeah. So people get stuck in just the overstimulation of everything, and we forget about what's important and what do we want. And the more clear and the more you get rid of the chaos, the more you can dial in, this is what I want. And then how to get there becomes very, just much easier, because the actions become somewhat obvious. And then it's just about taking those steps every day.
And now I'm thinking about the status quo bias and the stuckness when you've got all those, I'm going to say, balls in the air, and you're trying to do so many things that you don't really know what you're trying to do. There's less focus. And maybe we could, debate about hyper-focused versus diffuse awareness. That's for another episode. But there again, oh, if I stop these 3 things, those things aren't going to work out and they won't be there for me anymore. Instead of us thinking, if I table those for now, I'll get back to them later if and when it makes sense. And I focus on this one thing that I understand best and I've gotten a little bit of traction, so to speak, in the market. Let's dial in on that. And for example, that's how you rebuild yourself. You almost, like, nobody likes to start over, but starting over is sometimes the way it actually works. We have these stages in life, right? And I don't know any better than anybody, right? There's a lot of people that really, really know this stuff, but you start to figure things out. And it's almost like if you can learn to let go of things, I'm not talking about recklessness, but I'm talking about clearing the clutter. And I'll tell you right now, for the whole, whoever, I'm not great at that, but I have my moments. And it's nice if we keep an awareness of that and try to improve it. And you once you strip out the garbage and you're like, oh shit, that wasn't bad. You get rid of some stuff that you've held on to for 15 years and you're like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting rid of this. And then it's gone. And you're like, wow, somebody else is going to enjoy that. And I don't have to move it ever again. I don't have to be asked about when are we going to get rid of that. And you're giving yourself much better opportunities to keep moving. And I'm not saying in a haphazard, frenzy kind of way. More like you're not stuck. That's what I mean. And that's different for everyone, I would think. You can't measure yourself against others because that's a trick, that's a trap, that's a lie.
And your goals are going to be different than theirs, right?
Always.
And so that's the big thing, right? And it's hard to do because we're taught to compare. We're taught to, like, even school teaches you, like, you have to get A's on this and you got to do this and you got to, and like that's the whole culture. But it's like you're probably, your goals are different than Elon Musk's.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
and
so.
Like, okay, so he's got $800 billion. Like, maybe I'm not trying to optimize for that. And so it's like understanding what you truly want and what drives you and what makes you feel good is like the starting point to making decisions to going out and getting it.
Yeah. I'm reminded of the 3 C's. It's comparisons, criticisms, and cursings. When you're doing or receiving those, it's ultra bad, ultra bad. And if we can break those kind of habits, that's another way to avoid that freaking mental trap. Because I was talking to a buddy of mine. We've had this conversation over the years, but it was somewhat recent, where you might have a buddy or someone that's thriving and succeeding and they're doing all these great things. Some people, without even realizing it, don't know that they hate that it bothers them. But if you can kind of let go a little bit, like the real way to do it is like, yeah, man, especially if they're not like shitbags and doing bad stuff to people, right? You got to celebrate that because you're watching a human being thrive, and preferably in a healthy way, right? And everybody measures it differently. And I think we got to be careful, like, oh man, you're doing it wrong. I don't know if we even need to say that. Like trying to reach people and change what they're doing, that's really, really hard. So I think we're not really preaching here. We're talking around topics that I agree with you that everybody's dealing with it and they're thinking about it. They just might not recognize it. And when 2 cats are chopping it up about stuff like this, it might give them some inspiration. And some of them might say, yeah, you guys are full of shit. That's cool too. It's all good. Who cares?
There's nothing that either of us can say that will change anyone.
Correct. People change themselves.
That's right. And it's like, I don't like the tools I give people and the work that we do together. I don't fundamentally change people. I guide them on their own change, and I guide them towards what they want in their lives. Like, I'm not telling you should do anything. Like, if you like your job, you're happy, you don't actually change, because it's like, right? But it's like, if you're unhappy at your job, you want to do something different, you want something to change, here's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I mean, when people offer guidance, mentorship, coaching, strategies, they're yours to do something with it or not. And it's pretty simple. At the end of the day, I'm kind of stealing from Brian Bieski here because he says this all the time. Do the work. And if you're not doing the work, then nothing's going to change. You're not going to get that improvement. And nobody can do that work he's talking about in anything. Nobody can do it for you. You can ask people, hey, I don't know how to do this next part of my work. Do you know anything about this? Well, when I dealt with it, I did this, this, and this. And I also know somebody we can talk to. And you can continue to do that work. That's all it really is. And I don't think there's necessarily right or wrong answers. And that's what's cool about all this stuff. We, as far as we know, we get this journey once. And the more moments of not being stuck you can have, the better off you're going to be. And some people are not at all stuck and they never even leave their own property, right? Maybe they got 2 acres and they're just hanging out and they're doing their stuff. It's different strokes for different folks, man. Well, look, so where you're at, I know you're getting close to end of day, maybe getting ready for dinner and all that kind of stuff. Rob Kalwarowsky, I want to thank you for making the time. I can see you got a bit of rain coming down there. I can kind of see some of is that a rainforest or a jungle or neither?
It's probably neither because it's just like separates the properties, but it's probably closest to some version of the rainforest. It's just maybe 20 feet thick.
Yeah. Does it cool down a bit when it rains?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Well, look, I want to do this again. We'll try not to wait so long next time, but of course we get busy. We're doing different things. There he is, folks. Rob Kalwarowsky. Find him on LinkedIn. Connect with him. Don't forget to check out and get your copy of his book. That is called Capitalizing on Chaos, and it's Rob Kalwarowsky. Last name is spelled Kalwarowsky. He is the man. He will help you. He will make time for you. He's been doing this stuff for a long time now, and he gets it. Thanks, brother, for being on CMMS Radio once again.
Thanks, Greg.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.